I am Councillor Camwell Cole-Baines from Dormers Wells Ward in Southall. I've worked previously in education. I'm a parent to 3 children who are in primary schools. And I guess that's why I feel closely related to the work that we do here. I strongly believe in the importance of SACRE's role in promoting respect, understanding and partnership across our diverse communities. And I think more now than ever, fostering that respect between different religions and beliefs is essential to bringing people together. And as a Sikh person, as a Sikh woman, I attended Church of England schools, and many of the morals and values and stories that I did learn do put me in good stead, and are many of the values that I believe in now. So I believe that in early foundations are vital in shaping the whole child. So yeah, I'm truly honoured to take on this role, and I really look forward to working with you all. Thank you. So moving on forward, just before we go on and hand over to you guys to all introduce yourselves, I just wanted to confirm the only 2 apologies that I know of, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying your names correctly, are Aurelie Haley and Councillor Andrew Walkley. And thank you and welcome to his substitute, Councillor Natalia Kubica. I'm not sure if there's any more. Could we just check if there's any more? I'm not sure if Zaina, are you there?
Yeah, hi. We received apologies from Paula Walker as well.
Okay, so that's all noted. Is there any? So that's it. No more. Can I confirm there's no more? Okay. So going on to introductions. Can we have just a brief go round and perhaps introduce ourselves, please? Who would like to go first? Anyone?
I'm happy to go first.
Okay, Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, on the vengeance one.
Yeah, I'm Councillor Tariq Mahmood. I represent Perryville Ward, and SACRE is one of my passion. And can I echo, Chair, with your permission, about the remarks and appreciation you have given the outgoing Chair, Councillor Harbhajan Dheer, and she has done a very great job. And I echo what you said. So I used to be a chair 8 years of SACRE, and I'm still in SACRE. I enjoy and contribute the decision we are making in terms of partnership with the local communities, school, and local authority. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's noted. Thank you, Councillor Mahmood. I can't see hands up, so I had some technical issues before.
Oh, sorry. Hi there, Canol. I'll go next if that's all right.
Hi,
Councillor Ajayi. Hi there. Just introduce myself. I'm Councillor Stephanie Ajayi. I'm a new councillor covering the Greenford Broadway ward. And my interest in SACRE is because I have a lot of experience in schools, particularly Church of England schools. And as a Christian woman, education is really quite important to me, particularly Church of England education. And that's why I'm really pleased to be on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to go next? I can't see everyone on my screen, so is it Councillor Rice?
Yes, I can get it. So I'm Councillor Miriam Rice from North Park Mandeville Ward, and I suppose really my interest here is that as many of us do, I have a ward where there's quite a variety of religious faith and quest for understanding. So I think it's really beneficial, I think, to have an input in what's going on in this committee here and learning more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. I've got Councillor Keenan and then Councillor Larson.
Thank you very much, Camwell. Adam Keenan here, Liberal Democrat, councillor for Ealing Broadway Ward. I'm also a teacher at Dormers Wells High School, geography teacher, incoming head of department. I teach a little bit of religious education on the side as well.
Okay, I think it was Councillor Larson and then Councillor Mower.
Hi, my name's Sue Larson. I'm not a councillor. I'm deputy head at Christ the Saviour Primary School, and I sit on the SACRE as a representative of the Church of England.
Apologies. Sorry, Miss Larson. Thank you. I've got Christian Moa, Councillor Moa.
Yes, hello. I'm Christian Moa. I'm a Conservative councillor for North Greenford. Like many of you, religion plays a very important part in many people's lives, and I look forward to being a part of this committee. Thank you.
I cannot see because I'm actually on my mobile phone. I had technical issues before, so please forgive me. I cannot see whose hand is up. If anyone can see, Prajan, would you like to go next?
Yes, of course. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jan Maguire, and I'm a National Religious Education Advisor, and I serve you on your Ealing SACRE.
Charlotte Lanigan.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm Deputy Head and RE Lead at Montpelier Primary School, and I'm here as an observer, and I'm going to present later.
Thank you. And I've got Sinead Galbraith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sinead Galbraith. I'm Education Advisor with Ealing Council. I sit on this committee as the LA SACRE Lead.
Okay. Have I left anyone out?
Yes, there's another Sinead as well. There's two. And my screen's not great.
Is that Councillor Whelan?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm a new councillor for Northfields Ward. I'm invited to this committee. It sounds really interesting. Delighted to be here. Happen to grow up Catholic and go for the Catholic school system. A-star in religion. Hopefully it'd be helpful. And always interested to know about other religions. If anything, I wish I was exposed to more religions at school, even though I value the Catholic community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I've got Brajinder. I can't see your surname. Is it Brajinder?
Lal. Lal.
Yeah, Brajinder Lal.
Yeah, thank you. So you see, I'm Brajinder Lal from Romford, Southall, Sikh community. I've always believed that religious education is much more than learning facts about different religions. For me, being on the SACRE, it's an opportunity to help develop that curiosity, the empathy, the critical thinking, and of course, the respect for each other. My background is in education, curriculum development, and apprenticeships. And as I said, I have a strong interest in promoting understanding, respect, and inclusion through education, being on the SACRE committee. And thank you for your welcome today.
Hi everyone, sorry, my name is Duran Hakim. I'm a Year 5 teacher and RE lead. I'm a Farmerton scholar and I'll be presenting this meeting. Thank you for your invite.
Thank you, Duran. Was there anyone else that I can't see on my screen that hasn't spoken?
I think, so my name is Councillor Natalia Kubita. I'm not actually on the committee. I'm here to substitute for my colleague Councillor Walkley, who wasn't able to make it today, unfortunately. But I am excited to at least see the one meeting. So I went through the Catholic school system from nursery all the way to sixth form. But yeah, I'm quite excited to see what the committee does.
Great, Natalia, thank you very much for substituting as well. I did say at the beginning. Is there anyone else that I haven't mentioned that hasn't spoken?
Hi, Chair.
Yes.
Oh, hello, Councillor. Is that Councillor
here?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Hi, Jen. Hi, Sinead. Good to see you all. So I'm attending this meeting tonight as a SACRE member. So I represent Greenford Broadway Ward. So you know me. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
My name's Lux. I don't know if you can see me. I am the Buddhist representative on the committee. So I'm very pleased to be in the meeting. Hopefully we'll bring some mindfulness and meditation and the value of our minds to our kids.
That would be lovely. Thank you. Right, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken? Or is that everyone? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so if we go to item number 3, urgent matters. There isn't any urgent matters? Is there any urgent matters?
No.
Nope, okay. Item number 4, any declarations of interest? Is that Councillor Adam Keenan? Councillor Keenan?
Hello, thank you. You can hear me, can you? Yeah, lovely. As I said, I'm a teacher at Dormers Wells High School, which is within the Borough of Ealing. I'm also a union rep, and that's it.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? If I don't see your hand go up, please do feel free to just take a shout out. Okay, I'll move on to item number 5, matters to be considered in private. There weren't any.
Sorry, Canwell. Sorry, it's Stephanie Ajay here.
Sorry, Stephanie, could you just refer to me as chair, please?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, just in terms of declarations of interest, I'm also a trustee for the LDBS, which is the London Diocesan Board for Schools.
Okay, noted.
Thank you.
Okay, so no matters to be considered in private. Moving on to item number 6, minutes. Are the minutes agreed as a correct record on the meeting held on the 3rd of February 2026? And are there any outstanding actions that need to be followed up?
Chair, can I do my contribution? I have attended the last meeting with Councillor Team, and I have read the minute, and that's, in my view, minutes are accurate, and I will recommend that to approve that.
Thank you, Councillor Mahmood. Okay, so item number 7. Sinead, I'll hand over to you now for agenda number 7 on collective worship and determinations. We have 2 applications for school determinations, and they are Stanhope Primary School and Lady Margaret School. I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Sue Larson is here to present the determination for Stanhope. She made the school visit, and I made the school visit to Lady Margaret School, so I'll make that presentation. So I don't mind who goes first. I think on the agenda it was Stanhope first, but
yeah, that's fine, Sinead. Yeah, I can go ahead. So the report that I wrote is on page 13 and 14 of Stanhope's application. You can see that I do recommend the determination. Stanhope has a clear values-driven approach to collective worship and reflection. I observed an act of collective worship which was based around the Equality Act, and children really demonstrated really good understanding and deep reflection on that. Stanhope has also, one thing that really impressed me is in their Friday collective worship and celebrations that they have. It's very inclusive and open to the community, and they welcome lots of parents every week into that. So their collective worship and reflection, it really becomes a community event on Friday. So my full report is there on page 13 and 14. I've got no hesitation in recommending a termination. Just say in that report though, on page 24, there is something that has been added that shouldn't be in the report. It is part of a draft report that I wrote initially, and so page 24 does need to be deleted from that documentation.
Zaina, is that noted?
Yeah.
Thanks so much. If anybody has any questions about all the documentation for Stanhope, please do go ahead and ask. Very happy to answer any questions or queries.
Thank you. Sinead, are you next? But hold on, I've got 2
we've
questions.
just got some hands up. Yeah, you've got
I've got
Councillor Keenan first, Councillor Mahmood second, and then
can I get
Councillor
Councillor Sorry, Councillor Tariq Mahmood third. Thank you.
Thank you. My turn, is it?
Yes.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's great to hear about pupil voice, the parent invitation to celebration assembly. It's nice that everything's open and inclusive. Just a general question, really, about consultation. Is it common for staff members to be consulted about what's working and what isn't working and what needs to improve? And if so, could you just tell me a little bit more about that, if that's okay, Sue?
Yeah, I mean, different schools approach it in different ways. At Stanhope, I talked with the deputy head, who was the lead for collective worship and reflection in their school. They actually have a real rotation of staff who take it in turns to lead the reflections. So there's a lot of staff involvement, and they gets discussed regularly. They get pupil voice, which obviously is really important. And the pupil voice session that I did showed that the pupils sort of reflect and have lots of input into what happens as well.
Great, that's great. Yeah, pupil voice is great, but I'm just wondering, did the school consult staff, and if they did, what did staff, the ordinary teachers that teach this on a daily, on a weekly, monthly basis, what they say about the strengths and weaknesses of the programme?
So when they're applying for a determination, they don't have to consult staff. They have to consult with their parents, and schools tend to do pupil voice as well. I didn't ask specifically if they'd gathered staff feedback on their collective worship, no.
Okay, right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I think Councillor Mahmood, there's someone before you. Was it someone before, after Councillor Keenan?
Councillor Mower.
Councillor Mower, would you like to go ahead, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Sue, for being here today. It's my understanding that this is a renewal, that this is a renewed determination for the school.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I've just written a question. So what monitoring evidence shows that the determination was implemented correctly the first time, particularly in relation to continuing to acknowledge and mark major Christian festivals within the school? Thank you.
So you're asking what monitoring took place between the first determination being granted and then the application for the second determination?
Yes.
So there's been no monitoring by the SACRE. The SACRE doesn't go in and monitor collective worship and reflection in between determination applications. So the only monitoring that's taken place is the internal monitoring that takes place within the school.
Thank you very much. And just and they are presumably still continuing to acknowledge and mark, major Christian festivals within the school, as is their statutory. It's a statutory instrument, isn't it, that they have to implement?
Yes, absolutely. And so things like planning documents and samples of the assemblies that have been delivered are obviously shared with the SACRE, and there's some there in the application documents, and I talked about that with the deputy head. And also when I talked to the pupils in terms of pupil voice as well, they were able to talk to me about different festivals and different religions that had been celebrated and marked in the worship, including Christian festivals.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mower. Can I go on to Councillor Mahmood, please?
Thank you, Chair, and many thanks, Sue, for taking time out to go and observe the Stanhope Primary School, which is one of my favourite schools of the borough. This is second time I'm sitting in a SACRE for last 10 years when we are considering determination to Stanhope Primary School. So I just wanted to know generally what was your feeling when you have visited them in terms of collectiveness and bringing different views together. As far as I remember, Stanhope Primary School is very good to setting the themes, the yearly themes of collective worship togetherness. So what was your feeling, and what do you think, what was the theme this time?
So you'll see from my report that the act of collective worship that I observed, they were looking at the Equalities Act, and they focused in on one of the protected characteristics, which was religion. And they looked at a current news story where a man of a Jewish background and a man of an Islamic background had worked together to sort of serve the local community. And they had a discussion about what that showed, why that was a good thing, why what are the benefits of working together with others in the local community. And during the course of that discussion and reflection, children showed quite a good knowledge of both the Jewish faith and the Islamic faith. And there was some really sort of deep reflections. And then the children thought about what that meant for them sort of in their own lives. So there were some really deep themes explored in that framework of looking at the Equality Act and protected characteristics.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Was there any more questions, comments? No? Would you like to, Sinead, take the next step?
Oh,
Would someone raise their hand?
Oh, Councillor Ajayi.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I can't see the names on my screen. Go ahead, Councillor Ajayi.
That's fine, Chair. Thank you for that. Just to say, Sue, thank you so much for your update, which has been really, really comprehensive, and appreciate all the work that you do in the borough in supporting religious education in the way that you guys do. So thank you for that. My question was just around the different types of religions represented in the schools. I wanted to find out how did you get that? Because oftentimes when you're trying to get sort of demographic type data, it's never normally complete. So in terms of your characterizations of the different religions, what percentage of the population actually completed that? So when we say we've got, 36%, is that of the whole 100% of the people, or is that 70% of the people that completed the forms?
So the data on the religious makeup of the school is provided by the school from their MIS, their Management Information System, and they don't provide us with the percentage of families who have agreed to share that data. So that is a good question, and they're not required to share that part of the information, if you see what I mean. So they are statistics provided by the school, and we don't verify them as a SACRE.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other hands or questions? No? Okay, Sinead, would you like to start then, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'll briefly present the application for the determination renewal for Lady Margaret Primary School. So that's in your pack. The report is on pages 75 and 76. This is a renewal of an existing determination, and members will see from the papers that the school continues to meet all statutory requirements in relation to collective worship. Lady Margaret is a large and highly diverse primary school. It has significant representation of Muslim, Sikh and Hindu pupils alongside smaller numbers from other faith and non-religious backgrounds. So as with many schools in Ealing, the determination reflects the reality of the school community. What's particularly strong about the school's provision is that collective worship is daily, it's clearly structured, it's rooted in a rights respecting ethos, including belonging and pupil voice. It draws on both religious and non-religious worldviews as well, and it retains appropriate reference to Christianity alongside other traditions. During the visit, and I went in and observed a Key Stage 2 collective worship session, which was calm, purposeful, it was clearly structured. It strongly focused on themes of belonging, the difference between equality and equity, with a focus on equity and personal development as well. Pupils engaged really thoughtfully, particularly when reflecting on ideas such as courage and asking for help, and were able to articulate the purpose and value of these sessions. There was strong opportunities for discussion and pupil voice. One area you'll see in my report for further development is just ensuring that time for stillness and deeper individual reflection is consistently embedded, particularly when there are larger assemblies of children gathered together. You'll see the little line that I've kind of popped into the report there. What's particularly notable and consistent with what we're seeing across Ealing is the alignment with a wider belonging agenda, where collective worship, inclusion and safeguarding are working together to support pupils' development. You'll see in the report that I, based on the visit, the documentation, I had a thorough discussion with the head teacher, the lead for RE and the deputy head, as well as a group of pupils, that I recommend that the determination is renewed. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sinead. Is there any questions or comments that anyone would like to? Is that Councillor Rice and Councillor Keenan next, please? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm actually just quite interested looking at the RE unit overview on page 48 of the entire report, because there's mention of a number of children's books, which I wouldn't normally associate with being religious texts. So I'm just wondering if really the school spoke to you at all, Sinead, about how that really qualifies as being religious education. I mean, because one example that pops out was looking at a nursery school, when we look at why do people celebrate special times, and one book that pops out to me, because I remember from my childhood, would be The Very Hungry Caterpillar. So I couldn't quite see what the relevance of that was really to religion, unless you're thinking in terms of at special times that we probably eat a lot of food, and the caterpillar certainly does eat a lot of food. But I'm just quite intrigued. There's a number of books there, and I don't know if they, as I say, if they really talked a little bit about how that reflects religious education. Thank you.
They didn't actually, not specifically, but that's an interesting point to raise. I have no doubt that those links have been explicitly made. You know, the power of story. I mean, it could be anything around kind of life cycle and support and care, and you know, there are lots of different themes that you could extract from early reading texts and familiar texts like that. So, but I didn't specifically ask about that. But it might be interesting to kind of bring back. One thing actually that I was just going to note maybe at the end, but perhaps it's better placed here, is that just a procedural sort of note around that the head teachers are invited to present their own reports at SACRE meetings, and I think it would be helpful if the Microsoft Teams link goes out at the same time that the dates are set. So for future determinations, that they have the opportunity to put that into their diary as early as possible alongside the actual live link, so that they can just hop on, because many of these questions perhaps might be better placed and kind of fairer if the school is here to kind of answer it, because I'm sure that they'd be able to answer it straight away.
Great, thank you.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Zaina, can that be noted, please?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Keenan, then I've got Brajinder Lal, and then Sue next.
Right, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sinead. That was great, and it's good to hear about again pupil voice and parents being consulted. But that was in the documents as well, which was great. It's just the same question for Sue, really. I know that you spoke to the RE lead, which is great. But were teachers, were support staff who teach this on a day in day out basis, were they consulted about the strengths and the areas of improvement?
I mean, as Sue mentioned, not directly for this application and this process. However, because of the way that the procedure and the statutory responsibilities on the school to present to governing body, to present through their sort of normal channels of staff consultation, it would naturally sort of go through there. But it's not a specific direct responsibility or procedure as far as SACRE determination applications are concerned.
Is this something that SACRE would consider sort of doing as part of the sort of formula of review in future?
It's an interesting point. I mean, we could put it to the committee. It might be more helpful to sort of place it in a context of future determination applications and the organisation of the school visits, where we have 2 members of SACRE, which would be the ideal. So a qualified teacher going in alongside any SACRE committee member, where you could divide and conquer a bit, and because it's the expectation is that it's no more than about an hour that you spend in school, because obviously the application itself is a lot of paperwork and kind of putting together of a very robust set of principles and ethos and evidence. So that would be my sort of recommendation, that we think carefully about the determination applications coming up and try to commit to 2 or more going in. You know, in the past it's always fallen to Sue to go in, who is you know, gold standard in determination application school visits. But you know, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Sinead. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Brajinder Lal.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Rice, because I was going to make the same point about the textbooks. The 2 books that popped up to my notice were the Colour Monster and Mulberry Bush. So it may be worth, as Sinead said, you know, to bring that in as explicit questions at next visits for different schools. I think that would be a good idea. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Lawson. Sue.
Yeah, so I just wanted to respond to that question about the text, and actually Jan has also posted in the comments what I was about to say, so thank you, Jan. So just to be clear, that the determinations are looking at a school's provision of collective worship, not at their provision of religious education. And so often schools will use non-religious texts like early stories, because the focus of the collective worship and deep reflection is on a value rather than a particular religious belief or learning about a religion. So that's the context in which the use of children's stories as and talking about characters in stories enables younger children to engage with actually quite some deep questions about particular values, whether it's like the example Sinead gave, the value of courage, the value of speaking out, the value of sharing, the value of love, and that can be addressed in collective worship through non-religious texts. So that's just a little bit of context. When we're talking about determination, it's very separate from the religious education curriculum.
Okay, Councillor Mahmood and Councillor Moa.
Just a very quick, Chair. As far as I remember, I think Sinead will correct me. We have got represented in if I will take the point of Councillor Keenan and his passion as a teacher, I understand that you could be the voice of the teacher, but that's the reason, Sinead, I just wanted to know, in terms of our format, we have got representation of the teachers as well. Is that vacancy has been filled and somebody is representing teachers from Ealing? That's my first thing.
Councillor, we're going to go on to that in item 8.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moa?
Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick question, Sinead. In what way does the school ensure that Christianity has a meaningful presence in collective worship itself, not only in RE lessons? Thank you.
I'm not sure how to answer the question. Sorry. Can you repeat it again? How do?
How does, in what way does in what way does the school ensure that Christianity has, you know, is meaningfully represented in collective worship? Because collective worship, I'm not entirely sure on the definition of how these collective worship ceremonies work. So I'm just trying to understand how that works in a bit more detail. Thank you.
Okay, I guess within my report, I'm stating that the collective worship that I saw, there were strong links, and the evidence through the pupil discussion kind of group, and also I asked to see, they talked about their floor books as well. So each class has a floor book, which is a representation of kind of what they're doing in class within collective worship as well, and those themes were coming through in them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any more questions or comments before moving forward to item number 8, please? Okay, Thank you very much for item number 7. Going on to item number 8 then. The SACRE membership 25-26. I've seen there's 7 vacancies, 5 from Group A and 3 from Group C. I was just wondering if there are any changes or updates on this going forward. I'm not sure, Jan, who would answer that.
I can answer that. There's been no changes. We've currently a number of vacancies across membership groups, including some faith representation and teacher association representation. But all groups remain core at this point, and SACRE has continued to function effectively. But yes, there are the vacancies that you mentioned are still stand.
Thank you very much, Sinead. I've got Councillor Keenan. Is there a question?
Sorry, is this item 8 or 6 that we're on?
Item 8. So 8.
Have we jumped at all?
Item 6 was minutes.
Oh right, okay. Maybe I'm going off something else. I apologise.
Okay. So moving on to item number 9, the SACRE work plan.
Sorry, Chair, could I just one point before we move on from SACRE membership? I just want to ensure that our SACRE, although it's functioning effectively, continues to reflect Ealing, particularly as our communities are evolving. So I just encourage current members, to identify any potential representatives that they might know, particularly from underrepresented or emerging communities. I recently, also on the teacher sort of note, I recently attended the secondary RE Leads network. It's a small group, but our high schools are represented there. Just to give them an update, as I usually do, they meet 3 times a year, local, national and SACRE. And as I said, even though it's a kind of quite a small, it is a very strong network. It's about 12 schools that actively meet regularly, and I just encourage the teachers there to consider joining, and also to take that back to their schools as well. Don't have to be RE teachers to join, just to have kind of interest and perspective, particularly from an education point of view.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Sue's
Sinead.
got her hand up. Sorry.
I was just going on to that. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sinead. I wonder if you could just clarify, for the teachers to be on the SACRE, do they have to represent one of the unions?
No.
Oh, so a teacher can just be a teacher on the SACRE just as a teacher?
I believe so, unless Jan, you would disagree with that. But I do. I think that the unions are a separate group. But yeah, I'll let Jan take over.
I think that that you are right to a degree, but what we normally say is that we will go to the unions first. So we go to the teacher unions first, and we see whether they can recommend someone to come forward. Sometimes, like with Councillor Adam Keenan's role, he's got like 2 roles, and this does sometimes happen, and we end up with fantastic member joining us who can represent more than one area. You can also, of course, welcome in someone from your community as a teacher. So we're welcoming today Charlotte and Joanne, and they have a particular interest in religious education. So you can welcome them in, but we should try, if we can, to fill the union roles first. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right, that's fine. Was there any more questions regarding this issue? No? Is that a legacy hand, Councillor Keenan? Or is there another question?
It's not, just to clarify. So I'm first and foremost a councillor. I'm not representing the National Education Union. That is just to clarify, if that's okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So moving on to
Chair, sorry, could I just make one quick point? I wanted just to clarify what is the position with regards to retired teachers?
Who'd like to take that?
I'm happy to talk about retired teachers. So there are a number of different ways, of course, that you can sit on a SACRE. So let's say you're a retired teacher, but you're also a Jain member of the community, and your Jain association puts you forward. You would sit on, but you would be representing the faith group rather than the fact you were a retired teacher. But you could be, of course, you could be a retired teacher. But if you're going to be representing a union, that wouldn't happen. It would have to be an active teacher that would be coming forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Right, okay. Moving on to item number 9 then, the SACRE work plan. So I was just wondering, maybe this is to Zaina. Could you send the updated work plan going forward from September onwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item number 10. It was Jan's item on national and local updates. So I'll let you take that, Jan.
Thank you, everyone. Oh my goodness, it has been an incredibly busy time. So I'm going to just share with you a few of the current kind of headlines from the religious education nationally. So I'm hoping that I'm going to show you my presentation. Hopefully you're going to see that fine. Just let me know if you can see that, please. That would be very helpful. Can you see that fine? Yeah. And I'm just going to... Thank you very much. Okay, so this section of the agenda means that I can give you a little bit of a CPD. For those of you sitting on SACRE, you get an idea of what's happening in the national realm of religious education. And any questions, of course, you can come back to me outside of the meeting, because I understand sometimes some of you will be quite new into this area. One of the most important things happening at the moment is the curriculum review that the government are undertaking, and religious education was very much central to that review. It's the first time really that we've had significant changes since 1944 and 1987. So this is quite a big thing for the RE community. So far, we have recommended a number of changes, including the adoption of religious education as part of the national curriculum. And this has never been the case before. So it's quite an exciting time if you are very RE central like I am. But we are now waiting to hear from the government. It could be any time now that we hear. And the next stage will then be to work out what the detailed content would be of the materials that we teach in school. In terms of a reality check, of course, these things take a very long time. And so what would normally happen is that the bills will go through, they will go through the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and there will be significant legal changes that will need to be made. And so my message really to the RE community, and especially to SACREs, is that our job is to make sure that we continue to update our syllabus, which is a legal requirement every 5 years. And we make sure that RE is the best quality that we can possibly have for our teachers and our children. There also are a number of statutory responsibilities that as a SACRE, we do need to just remind ourselves that we have got. So I'm just going to go through those with you quickly now. And again, as I said, if there are things you would like me to go through another time, then just ask me. So until the government's decision on the RE curriculum, everybody within Ealing that attend a community school, or if they are a school that has a trust deed that says they will be following the agreed syllabus, the school must by law follow the Ealing agreed syllabus, and we call it the AMV syllabus, awareness, mystery and value. It remains the case that all pupils are entitled to RE. So again, that's our responsibility. And as a SACRE in Ealing, you're very good at ensuring that you are looking to the schools and schools. So I'm very grateful for that. The other legal responsibility is that all schools must complete an annual report on religious education by law. And the next thing that we should be aware of as a SACRE member is that we really must be very aware of the local agreed syllabus. Because it's our legal document, we need to make sure that we are aware of that. So those of you that haven't ever looked at the legal agreed syllabus for Ealing, then I will share a slide a little bit later where you can take down the website address. But the most important thing, of course, is that we want children to have a great experience of religious education. That's our role, really, as a SACRE. The other thing that's happened since I've met with you last was the Progress 8 government engagement. So that was back in May. And I did represent not just Ealing, but a number of other organisations in some responses that I put forward to the government. So there was a suggestion that the STEM subjects within the curriculum, so these are the science subjects, should take precedence. And my argument was, in a world where we are heading towards more AI, more modern technology, more modern ways of working, that we really needed to be aware that children needed to have certain skills which religious education could, in some ways, have a very unique place in the curriculum to help the children to develop. So you've already mentioned these today, some of you actually in your introductions. The reason why you think RE is important is because we try where we can to help children to develop skills so that they can survive in our modern world. And what do we mean by that? Well, skills such as critical thinking, the ability to ask difficult questions, the ability to learn to differ well, to listen to others, and to understand that there is a nuance in society and a nuance in humanity and how they may be able to get on well with others. And I think those skills are very important. So that was the case I made. The other thing I would like to flag up with those of you who are new into religious education and the SACRE is to be aware of the RE Hubs, which is a national website where religious education teachers are encouraged to go for resourcing. But there are many more. But what you find on the RE Hubs website are links to all of the religious faith group association websites, and they are authenticated. So in other words, we try to make sure that all of the links the teachers find from this website are links that we can trust. The other website that I often flag up with SACREs is the RE Online website, where if you wish, and you ever find time, you can do free online courses, which will help you to have a better understanding of religious education. And sometimes in our communities, we might have a problem which comes to us in our roles, and it could be that we feel that we do need some additional knowledge, and this might be one way that you could find that to help you in your role. Back in May, I went to Liverpool to the SACRE conference, so I represented Ealing at the conference, and it was a wonderful opportunity once again to hear from Professor Ogden about the government review, but we also got to meet a number of people that represented interfaith work around the country. So it was a really interesting meeting, and probably some of you aren't aware of this, although Sinead did just mention actually that Ealing is often held up in very high regard for your work on determinations, and it really is an excellent system that you have in place. And what's excellent about it is that you have become empowered to do it within your SACRE, which is what you should actually do. So often many SACREs look to Ealing for a model. So I just wanted to say that to all of you. You really do deserve praise for that. And I know quite a few of you take a lot on in order to get this done, including Sue and Sinead, and we should be very grateful. Thank you. The SACRE conference was a wonderful place to hear about the West Hill grants, and these grants are offered to SACREs around the country every year. So this might be something that we should still be looking to. You know, is there something we would personally like to do in Ealing that would benefit our schools and that we could put a bid in for? The bids are around between £7,000 and £10,000 normally, but sometimes more. And it means that you can address an issue that you think that Ealing should be looking at in detail. So I'm flagging that up because it might be something that a few of you would be keen to do, and I would help you obviously with that. I mentioned Professor Ogden. I must say, those of you that haven't met her, I've been very impressed with the way that she has handled an incredibly diverse community with such grace. And I think that's the reason why everybody in the community, well, pretty much everybody in the community, agreed for the suggestions to go forward to the government. It's the first time that's been successful. The other thing just to mention is the Faith and Belief Forum. They are the group that run the Interfaith Week every year in schools in November. So I would just like to give a big shout out to those of you that might be prepared to do something for Interfaith Week. If you would please let us know, and we can then share that with our schools in Ealing, and hopefully the teachers and the children will benefit from coming into your faith group to find out more about what you do in the community. Thank you. That's everything on the national update.
Thank you very much, Jan. It was great to read your report on that. Was there any questions or comments anyone would like to make on that? I know, Jan, you said that you would be happy to take that on another time. Okay, so moving on. Sorry, Jan?
I didn't know whether if Councillor Rice wanted to ask a question. She's got her hand up.
Have you got your hand up,
Miriam?
Councillor Rice?
Sorry, it keeps muting itself. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, so yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, what I'm actually just quite interested in is, it's not really something I thought about before, but about the role of religious education in sixth forms. And so I don't know if there's really any story here about the potential for removing the statutory requirement for learners in school sixth forms to study RE. I don't know if there's more that we can perhaps expand on that, because I'm just quite interested as to what's going on there, and hopefully we're not downgrading religious education generally. Thank you.
That's a very good question, and one that the community, the wider RE community, has been looking at in a lot of detail. Currently, as the law stands, religious education must be taught right the way through to Key Stage 5, so that does include A-level. But when the surveys were carried out, over the last 10 years at least, it's really quite difficult to find any consistency in the way that A-level religious education is being taught as a core subject. So schools that offer it as an A-level, so where they're teaching either religious studies or philosophy, then that's usually done to an incredibly high standard. But where schools are not offering that, but instead are offering some kind of core, then it may just be that it would be a drop-down day or something like that. So there isn't much consistency. And so in the report, Professor Ogden suggested that the government might consider reducing that requirement. But yes, of course, many people argued that that would not be a good thing, and many people argued that it might be a better thing. So, but it's not, obviously, we have no say in that final decision, and we're waiting on that decision now. And Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you very much, Jane. That's the ongoing issue in terms of shortage of RE teacher, and especially overall, but especially in secondary school. I'm just wondering, is there any work or initiative has been done on that?
Sorry, I didn't catch some of that, Councillor Marie. So any work that's been done in secondary schools on? Yeah. I had a bit of a
for encouraging.
I cut out. Sorry.
For encouraging more secondary school RE teachers, because in terms of our Ealing, we are very much shortage of RE teachers, especially in secondary schools.
Yes, nationally there are currently 47 RE posts being advertised. So that's a lot of RE teachers that are required. All of the universities, I met with the universities in Birmingham this week. Universities with active students have found places for their students in schools, and there are still 47 vacancies. So that is still a problem, and the problem is that the bursary for religious education, not just religious education, many other subject areas have their bursaries cut, by the way, but we had our bursary cuts this year. It was only open for about 2 years at maximum, and then it got closed. It was only for £10,000. We gained a huge amount of interest from teachers, a lot more teachers. In fact, it probably went up by about 150%. We had extra teachers coming in to take RE, and then because the bursary has been withdrawn, the numbers have depleted hugely this year. We've got hardly any student teachers training in RE this year.
Thanks for that, Jan. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really important point. Thank you, Councillor Mahmood, for raising it. I am one of the year 7. I teach year 7 RE, sometimes year 9 RE, and I'm not a specialist. And I think a common complaint that teachers might make, and I don't know if this is founded or not, or Jan, you hear a lot about this, but RE can sometimes be taught quite differently due to the sort of fragmented nature of the education system in various different primary schools. So when they come into secondary school, and this is RE, geography, history, often sometimes the level of RE that's being taught is slightly lower than what some primary schools would offer, and maybe slightly above what others would offer. I don't suppose you have anything to comment on that?
I think the Ofsted review for May 2021 hasn't changed, and you're right that there's a lot of inconsistency in the teaching that's offered nationally in religious education. In Ealing, we're very fortunate that we've got an excellent core of religious education teachers that are supported by Sinead and her team, as well as from me with training sessions. And I think that what you find is that in religious education, a lot of the teachers are not trained specialist RE teachers. They may have an interest in religion, but sometimes they only stay in the role for a year. So sometimes the quality of RE dips, whereas in other subjects, those teachers may stay in the subject for much, much longer. Yeah. So there is a problem, but it's a problem that is a national problem. It isn't just something that we note in Ealing. And if I'm honest, I see much worse. So although we may know there are issues in Ealing, Ealing works very hard to try to make sure the teachers are given a lot of support.
That's great, thank you. And I suppose it's just having the time, isn't it, to plan a really well structured curriculum, both at primary and secondary. Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Sinead.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Ajayi was before me.
Sorry, Councillor Ajayi, I literally can only see
I know you
6
can't
people
see hands.
on my phone.
That's
Sorry. Councillor Ajayi,
Yeah.
apologies.
That's all right, Chair, no problem. I just wanted to make a more of a comment with my London Diocese hat on. We look after 154 church schools, and obviously the teaching of RE within schools is really key to what we do. So what we have is school improvement partners who work with our faith schools to ensure that the RE curriculum is robust. Now, the challenge often that you have is in the west of London, there's very few faith schools, whereas in the city and the other sides of London, so there's much greater numbers. So, so we really don't have that many faith schools, but they do get involved in curriculum planning. But I think because they are faith schools, they're probably better served than non-faith schools when it comes to RE teaching.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor. I would agree with you that a lot of faith schools have more time on the timetable as well. So that means that the depth of education that the children receive is richer, and because they have more time. And so often this is what we find, schools that can offer consistent time on the timetable, at least an hour a week, the depth of understanding the children will have in the subject will be far greater than a school that cannot offer that. So, but you're right, you're so right, all of you, that there is inconsistencies between different types of school and different schools.
Okay, thank you. Sinead, did you want to say something before?
It's okay. I think it's been covered. It was just I wanted just to make the point about the two sort of themes around the RE specialist teachers, both at secondary and primary, but also that there is a context for Ealing. And I think it was around about this time last year, I did a very sort of specific piece of work on what the Ealing picture was like, how many RE specialists, and so reported back to SACRE a little bit about that, because it did buck the trend, didn't it, Jan, a little bit about how well resourced Ealing are with their RE specialists, both at primary and no vacancies at secondary. That was about a year ago, but that would be easy to sort of repeat as a piece of work, just to put it into context as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, everyone. I've got.
Sorry, Chair.
Jay.
Sorry, Chair. Could I just make one small point on that, though? In terms of that research, though, which showed that Ealing is doing better, though, is that due to the dominance of one particular school trust that is actually faith-based? That's a question for you, sir.
Can Sue answer it, or Sinead, or Jan?
Yeah.
Did you mean me? Was it for me, for Sinead, or was it for Sue?
I think
I'm
for
happy
anyone
for you to pull lots at this point. I don't mind.
Sinead, as you did the research, then you go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but no, because it was looking at. I mean, I'd have to kind of bring it back up, but I can certainly repeat it and bring it to the next SACRE meeting. But it because it covered all secondary schools. Yeah, it wouldn't have. The data wouldn't have dominated in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but one of those schools is a trust with 4 schools within it, and the other one has 2 schools within it. So I'm just wondering if that number might have skewed the results.
You're on mute, Chair.
Sorry, I was just saying to Councillor Jay, is that okay if Sinead can get back to you on another time?
Perfectly fine.
Is that fine? Is that okay, Sinead? Yeah. Is there any more questions or comments to be made regarding this national and local updates, or can we move forward now to the agreed syllabus, which is item number 11? Are we happy to move forward? So Jan, could you please go ahead to the agreed syllabus update, which will be followed then by our wonderful Farmington scholars presentations. And I mean, I think their work provides timely a timely and evidence-based lens, which really shows the strengths and challenges within Ealing's provision, particularly our primary phase. So yeah, I'll let you go ahead, Jan.
Can you see this okay? I'm a bit worried that you won't see it.
We can't see the presentation.
No, at the moment. I'm just, okay. For some reason, I'm just going to see, I'm going to share again and see if I can find it. I think I've got too many windows open. Here we go. Right. Can you see it now? No, it's disappeared, hasn't it? I'm going to try again. I've got the Farmington one, but not it's playing me up. I'm going to talk to it and then hope that you can see that one, can't you? I think you can see the Farmington one. Is that right?
There's a picture, I think. There's no text.
No text.
We
can't
see it at the moment.
Okay.
If it's helpful, I can.
I'm going to have to stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. I'm going to talk to that document because it doesn't seem to want to open for me. And while I'm talking, I'll see if I can get it open again. Okay, so the Agreed Syllabus Conference, for those of you new in, I've already mentioned that every 5 years by law, we have to review the syllabus. And on this occasion, we were very aware of what was going to happen nationally. And so the decision was made that we would still review because we knew there were things that were out of date in our syllabus, which is it was really an abridged version of the awareness, mystery, value syllabus. And so my job was to look at that, to speak to the teachers, to survey all of the schools. And since then, I've been working with the steering group that oversee the awareness, mystery and syllabus. We're nearly there, actually. So I just wanted to share with you today what we had done, and I'm hoping that this is now going to open for me. No. Okay, it doesn't want to open for me. So I am just going to tell you, you have got this in your pack, thankfully. So you will be able to have a look at the documents. So what we have been looking at are some of the changes that the teachers would find useful, and some of our teachers are here this evening. So Charlotte and Duran have been really helpful at looking at those documents, and together as teachers we were discussing some of the things that we should change. We have changed some of the language slightly to reflect some of the new language in our in the religious education community. So we're focusing now much more on substantive knowledge, that's the stuff. We're focusing on the other forms of knowledge as well. So we've got substantive knowledge, disciplinary knowledge, and personal knowledge. Now, in our syllabus, we spend a lot of time looking at reflexivity, or the reflection that children can do, and I think that's very important. I know that diocesan schools are very good at spirituality and reflection, and I know that other faith schools are too, but sometimes in community schools that element is more difficult. And so the syllabus, the AMV syllabus, is very good actually on reflection, and because the government seem to be moving towards focusing much more on personal knowledge and reflection, I've spent quite a lot of time building that into the newest iteration of the syllabus. I think it will be a very good thing for the teachers and for the children to be able to reflect, to spend more time on reflection, oracy, dialogue, questioning, sharing, parental engagement and community engagement. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody when it's finished. The other thing the teachers wanted were some support, additional support. So this year, for the first time, the teachers have a huge curated website with lots of wonderful resources on it, lots of planning documents, and this will be, I hope, an excellent additional tool in their toolbox in Ealing. You already had some excellent documents, so those will be added to the website where we feel that that's useful. Some things will remain behind a closed wall, I think, because of the way the schools pay into Ealing. The one thing I'm really pleased about is that the teachers will have access to a lot of different planning documents, and in our last session that we had with the teachers, we shared a lot of those planning documents and they really liked them because they could see that that would cut down a lot of time for them in school. And the other thing that we can offer is that we have had a great piece of work done around vocabulary, and a lot of the teachers wanted really up-to-date definitions that fitted the curriculum, so that's something they will have access to. And the final thing, which I haven't even told some of my teachers yet, is that really exciting news, the Oak Academy, which the government put a lot of money into developing, they have just done a lovely piece of work for me, and they've mapped all of our syllabus against all of their free resources, which means that the teachers can use the free Oak resources in Ealing using the AMB syllabus. So that's a really fabulous additional thing, which I hadn't intended to do at the start, but I got offered the opportunity to work with them and I thought, yes, let's do it. So that's really my update. It's going well. These things take time, as you know, it's a lot of work, but we're hoping, well, I am hoping to get somewhere so that we can then have time to implement things in schools in the forthcoming year. Thank you.
Well, that is wonderful news, Jan. And shall we move on to the Farmington Scholars? Charlotte, would you like to begin?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Can we all see that? Yep, good.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing to say is I feel like my presentation is really kind of going to bring together a lot of the things we've already talked about. A lot of things that we've discussed, I'm thinking, oh, that's in my presentation, and that's in my presentation. So there's going to be lots of overlap with the things that we've already spoken about. The first thing to say is it's been an absolute joy to be able to do the Farmington Scholarship. And we have to say a big thank you to the enthusiasm and encouragement of Jan, who's really supported Joanne and I through this year. And it's been wonderful as a personal CPD to really understand RE and what it means. And it's been wonderful for my school, and we're hoping it's going to have a wider impact. So, can you see my slide? Hold on. Okay, I'm going to have to move them down. Yeah. Okay, sorry, it's not moving along. There we go. Are we on the next one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So my context is I work at a large, vibrant, multi-faith community school in Ealing Broadway, which many of you will know. And you know, I feel absolutely so honoured really to work there. And I've worked there since 2018, but I've worked in Ealing for many, many years. So I have worked in several schools across the local authority, and I'm really delighted to be able to be a deputy head teacher at such a wonderful school. But the reason we're here today is to talk about RE, and we need to set up this question that whether RE really matters. And the reason we have that question in primary education particularly is because sometimes RE is fighting for space. It's fighting for space when there's a dominance of maths and English, and it's fighting for space among a busy timetable of all sorts of other things going on. And we have to say we're all here because we are passionately believe in RE. And does it really matter? So I did a lot of reading, and the most important place to start is the research projects from Ofsted. So they've done some really good work, both in 2021 and 2024, that really help us understand the place of RE nationally. And this is one comment, just really summarises the concerns about where RE is as a subject. That it lacks sufficient substance to prepare pupils to live in a complex world. And lots of us have talked about this already, that what we need our children to be ready to go into the world and able to cope with the challenges that are out there. Now, of course, there is a bit of a bleak picture at the moment nationally in terms of interfaith work, and we see so many negative headlines. And when we think of our primary school children sitting in our classrooms, we want to see this as a really powerful and important opportunity, so that when we see headlines like this, we are moved to actually make a difference and make a meaningful religious education curriculum that's going to combat our challenges. And in fact, if you look at some of the data, you can see this is hate crime data from the national statistics. The increase in religious hate crimes significantly, and I think this is 2023-24, but anecdotally we can say there's been an increase even since then. And we are moved and we are motivated to create a curriculum that's really going to meet these challenges of our current society. So of course we've got Nelson Mandela, who says the most powerful weapon that we can use to change the world is education. And so let's see, what can we do? Okay, so we need to think about what we've got in Ealing, and is it what our children need, and is it right for our children? So this is what I did, and this is my project. And to start with, I kind of assessed the situation. So I went and spoke to teachers, I observed lessons, lots of lessons, and I also analysed curriculum documents, the Ealing curriculum documents, and I looked at them in terms of progression, and I asked the questions around were they fit for purpose. And then I planned, and I met with Jan, and I met with my colleagues at the local networks, and I started to make a plan. What can I do that's going to really help us move forward with this? And then I started learning about the curriculum models that are out there and what's going to work. So I looked at actually in other areas of the country, and I was lucky enough to interview curriculum writers, including from Oak Academy, who we just mentioned. So I interviewed the main curriculum writer from Oak Academy, and I can say that Jan is right. The resources are amazing, and we wanted to understand how to make the curriculum as impactful and powerful as possible in the context of a squash timetable where we're fighting to get RE where it should be. And then I'm reviewing, and I'm doing part of that today, and I'm reviewing with Jan, and then I've got the absolute pleasure of going to Oxford University in a couple of weekends' time, where I'm going to feed back my findings at the university, and with a whole network of national RE colleagues and we all benefit from learning from each other. So this is, I'm sure you all know this, but this is where we start, which is what the curriculum looks like now. And really, I'm just kind of showing you examples here. So if we think about how we build the children's knowledge, we start in year 1, for example, what is Islam is their first introduction to learning about Islam. And then if we look on the next slide, you can see that in year 4, they're building on that knowledge. There's also units in between, which are about things like pilgrimage and prayer, which will also build on their knowledge. Then we've got more specific Islamic units, and in year 5 and in year 6. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, actually, that makes a lot of sense. That seems to work. The progression seems to work. It does build nicely. There's a nice mix between sort of pure single religion units and multi-faith units, subjects like pilgrimage, where you can learn about lots of different religions at the same time. But there is a problem. When I spoke to the teachers And they said, I did a whole training in my own school, plus met with the RE leads from across the local authority. And they were not so positive. They said they felt like the curriculum is too content heavy, and they feel bogged down and they feel overwhelmed by the amount of content they are meant to teach. They felt like deeper questions were sort of, it says here, somebody said not spoken about, but often sort of rushed through, I guess, because they're trying to teach the children everything they need to learn. And it feels knowledge driven, and there's not enough time for reflection, more opportunity for cross-faith learning, not enough time to cover the content, and some of the units, particularly early, are too challenging. Then let's talk about reflection. We do not allow enough time for children to reflect on their thoughts on religions and if their thoughts have changed. And this is something about worldviews. So we really speak to children in terms about worldviews, but are they really able to reflect and think about similarities, differences, how that makes you feel? Oh, that's a bit like what I do, those kinds of reflections. Some teachers were saying the difficult conversations, they don't feel really prepared and able to have those conversations, which is why they tend to go back to the content, and not enough time is allocated for the children to express their worldviews. And this was about current events, and the teachers don't really feel equipped to deal with that. So this is an example of an Ealing unit plan. And I don't expect you to read it now, but my point is that it's a Key Stage 1, Year 1 plan. So this is for children who are age 5 and 6. I'm going to just give you one example, but one of the learning outcomes is that children understand the core beliefs that Islam holds about God, revelation, and both the purpose and the destiny of humanity. And it's no wonder that the Year 1 teachers feel overwhelmed by that, because it's too metaphorical for a Year 5 and 6-year-old child to understand, and it's too complex for a teacher to get to grips with. So this is a similar one about Christianity, and I did a similar thing where I looked at the details, and I realized that the difficulty was really early on in the curriculum, where there's really dense amounts of knowledge that need to be learned. So what I did was I created progression grids. Now, this is, again, just an example. There's lots of these across different religions. But I broke it down into different themes and concepts within the religions so that we could see how it built through the Ealing curriculum. And so it starts with EYFS, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and shows vocabulary progression. And this, I went to the same meeting as Sinead the other day with the secondary leads, and I was doing some transition work, which was interesting, again, back to a point we talked about earlier. And the point was I took the RE work from my Year 6 children and showed it to the secondary leads so they could see where my children were, which was exactly what I thought I must mention that because we talked about it earlier. And we had a really good conversation about the transition from Year 6, Year 5 and Year 6, actually. I took some Year 5 work as well. And I showed them these progression grids, and they said that some of the content is actually more complex than what they were teaching at GCSE, and we need to think about that proper progression. So that was really interesting, and we had a nice conversation about that. This is again some reading I did. Barbara Winterskill is a very influential RE curriculum writer and researcher, and it's a challenging quote and probably controversial, but she's saying that children aged 5 and 6-year-olds, they're not yet able to differentiate between fact, fiction, myth, and Piaget says the same thing. He says very young children are not able to differentiate between fact and fiction, and we need to be aware of the types of concepts that we're introducing and how early we are introducing them. Okay, so what works and what doesn't work? The progression makes sense. It is knowledge rich and should be knowledge rich. We want children to learn stuff, absolutely. The assessment grid, it sets out clear outcomes. And there's a range of units, some of which can be adapted. So the unit on prayer could be adapted according to your community, and some of them are very solidly sitting within our main religions. But it is too complex too early, overwhelming the teachers, meaning that the children learn very little. the substantive knowledge element is too dominant. The teachers are skipping over the reflection just because they feel like they've got to teach the children all the stuff. There's a lack of time in the curriculum for personal knowledge and spiritual reflection. Disciplinary learning, which I'm not really covering in my presentation, but could be a whole other debate and CPD on disciplinary learning. The organisational structures are not clear, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And the unit plans are too dense and they need to be rewritten. And there's a lack of emphasis on non-religious worldviews, because we really, really want to state that every worldview is valid. Everybody has a belief. Everybody's view comes from somewhere. Just if you're not brought up in a religious family, you still have a view that is valued. So these are some of the, just an example of some of the other curriculums that I looked at. Of course, the awareness, mystery and value, that's our Ealing one. Then we have the Anne Taves 6 big questions, Barbara Winterskill's big ideas, and the RE Council work. These are the main ones that I looked at. And this is Jan has worked for years with Anne Taves, so this is Jan's sort of specialism. But what was really nice about the Anne Taves one, that it is more philosophical, and it's based on the big questions that all of us ask about life. And I really actually like this, because it's you can imagine children really getting to grips with what are the most important things about being a human being and the human experience. What is real? What exists? Who are we? Where do we come from? How do we get here? And that all of the RE teaching comes through these golden threads. And these golden threads are really what drives the curriculum. This one is the RE Council, and this work really led into Vanessa Ogden's work on the national curriculum. So here we have content, engagement and position, which has really translates now into substantive, disciplinary and personal knowledge. Again, we could talk about these more. Now, Barbara Winterskill's main ideas. What I really like about this, when I read about this, is she's very keen on making it clear that the driver behind the curriculum is not how much content we've learned. We don't have little children and pour knowledge into their heads like jugs. We actually say, what are the key drivers behind the curriculum? What are our golden threads? And she was really key in having these key ideas. And her first one is community, continuity, change and diversity. And children need to be aware that religion and worldviews are diverse and change over time, and that there'll be lessons built around that. And each one of those golden threads is really driving our curriculum. And then we have our Ealing golden threads. Now, these Ealing golden threads are similar to the others. So what really I learnt when I was researching, and I interviewed lots of different people who write curriculums from across the country, is that it doesn't actually matter what the golden threads are, because all of them are well researched and valuable golden threads. What matters is that the teachers understand the why of the curriculum, which is that these golden threads are the driver. What doesn't matter is, oh, they have to have learned all this content by the time they leave me. I have to make sure they know all of this information, and then they need to move on, because that's the important thing. What they need to do is they need to understand the meaning. So we are learning today about beliefs, teachings and sources at an appropriate age, so that we can move on to the next one. And we are really understanding that these big ideas are our drivers, and that this is the foundation of our planning. And what I think is, having spoken to teachers, that teachers don't understand this. They still hold on to their unit plans and say, I've got to teach this content, rather than really understanding what the golden threads are and why they're important. It's important that children understand each of these, and this is the foundation of our Ealing curriculum. So right in the middle of my Farmington, we had the curriculum and assessment review, which Jan has already spoken about. And I didn't quite get to the point where I was dreaming about the RE curriculum every night, but I quite like this quote from Becky Francis, who wrote the curriculum review. And then I went to listen to Vanessa Ogden speak at a national conference, and she was wonderful. And we've come up, she's sort of presented us with what the new national curriculum might look like. And so we are sort of equipped to move forward. So from my research, what could best practice look like? So Jan's already talked about this, but the pillars of the curriculum are the golden threads, and they are held by the 3 key words, which are substantive knowledge, the stuff the children are going to learn. And then it is personal knowledge. I've reflected, how has it changed me? How do I feel? How is this similar to what I do at home? And disciplinary knowledge, which is, how do I know this? Who have I asked? Which book have I read? Who have I interviewed to find this out? Have I interviewed my local priest? Have I been to visit the local mandir? How have I learned this? And our golden threads from Ealing fit really clearly and nicely into these 3 areas. And we believe that the new national curriculum, when it comes, will also do that, so that we've got a curriculum for whom this is going to work. We also need confident, well-trained teachers who are really able to make decisions about the pedagogy, what they're going to teach, how they're going to teach it, and to ensure that there's long-term learning. Planning lessons must be driven by understanding the big ideas and not covering content or completing a task. So what we can't have is like, oh, what are the children going to do today in RE? Oh, they can design a prayer mat. Brilliant. Let's do designing a prayer mat. And they all do some lovely colouring, brilliant things, put them on the wall. Absolutely lovely. That's RE done. No, we have to understand the why behind the curriculum and make sure that the golden threads are holding it together. And pupils need to gain collectively enough knowledge and not total coverage, so that they are confident, skilled in talking about their knowledge, but they don't know everything. But they do know who to ask, where to find it, and they've got the tools. In terms of short-term planning, we need a better balance between our curriculum areas. So I interviewed this lovely lady called Gillian Giorgio, who's actually now one of the key speakers at the Farmington conference, and we've been in touch, and she's going to be speaking at Farmington about holding personal knowledge at the centre and everything else hanging off that. And the case study, she's very keen on case studies, should drive the curriculum because that makes it alive for children. We've got authentic, high quality resources. And this is work by Mary Myatt. And she really, really believes that all children can learn complex language and should have high quality resources. So none of your colouring in RE, it's got to be high quality, and that content should be age appropriate and realistic for non-specialist class teachers to teach with confidence in a limited time. So how do we do that? So this is what it looked like before. This is my suggestion, that a planning unit would look something like this. And I've broken it down so you can see it. So the idea would be at the top, you've got which golden thread you're covering, and you can see the blue one is your substantive knowledge. So that is what are the children learning? Your practices and your ways of life, which is the most important thing. What are the practices we're learning here? What is it like to be a Muslim? What is that way of life? What are we learning? What are our facts? Then we've got values and commitments. So we've got begin to show an appreciation for Islamic design. Reflect on it. Maybe go and visit your local mosque, have a reflect on it. How does that make you feel? Is that like something else you've seen? Or I've seen something like that on holiday. Reflect on it. These are 5- and 6-year-old children, so very young children. And disciplinary knowledge. So you might invite a visitor to talk to about their experience of Islam. You might begin to understand that the Quran is the main source of inspiration and knowledge for Muslims. So these are the 3 different areas, and they link directly to our golden threads. Then we have on the same sheet key assessment questions and we have the assessment focuses, but important for teachers, we have links here to the Oak Academy, which Jan says has already been done, so that's brilliant, and to the RE Today work, so the teachers know this is where I get the stuff to teach this. This is good quality, I know what it is, I know what I need, and it tells you the next steps. Well, I didn't mention that before, this is really important. That we've got prior knowledge, what do the children already know about this on the top of the sheet, and next steps, where are the children going next? And this is all on the one planning sheet for each unit. And then that could be built on and learned and developed. Well, I had to say, when I showed this to the network, they really liked it and they found it really easy to access. So training, this also comes from the Ofsted review. Although a few teachers had received subject-based professional development in RE, the overwhelming majority had not. Given the complexity of the subject and the kind of misconceptions that the pupils were left with, this is a significant concern. And I think the key word there is misconceptions. So we've got teachers who are not confident to really ask the challenging questions and to really answer the challenging questions because they are not specialists and they have not been trained. Oh, this is a lovely picture of a lovely lesson that I observed, and I don't know if I've got time to tell you about it, but anyway, it was a lesson about Lent in which the teacher really embraced all the different children's worldviews, and they all compared and contrasted their own experiences of Ramadan and how that was the experience of them, and even just acts of kindness, and they all wrote acts of kindness and created an act of kindness chain, which they've still got hanging in their classrooms to show how their experiences of Lent and how that was important for them. So this is my summary. We've got the golden threads, we've got accessible planning, we've got training, but we're holding the children in the centre. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
yes,
Charlotte.
Thanks.
That's a very interesting report and a good read. Is there any questions or comments anyone would like to make on that? Going forward, is that Councillor Mahmood?
Thank you, Chair. Honestly, I'm very impressed the work you have done it and the work you are doing it. It's 38 slides and all of them are very interesting. I've got a couple of reminders and 3 things to tell you. I know you are working in a very complex situation to write and rewrite our Ealing Agreed syllabus. But I'm just wondering, and as you know better than me, Ealing, London Borough of Ealing is a faith-driven community and faith-driven borough. And different faiths are practicing a very integrated way. But I am sure in your report, you mentioned a couple of times about worldviews. I'm just wondering, and I just wanted to assure that on some point you said that there is a complex area and teachers are not very much taking lead on that. I just want more clarification on that. In terms of all faiths, if we will bringing worldview together, that will be the really good combination in our future agreed syllabus. And the second thing is, like you said in your presentation, you are talking about the long-term plan. So do you think it is not a great idea, while I was watching your presentation, we could lay out about some sort of Ealing Agreed syllabus and put it as a future connectivity as well. So we will set the format, and in the future, in every 5 years, in regards to rewrite that syllabus, we could put the models, the future models, which can be valid for the coming time. Don't you think this is a good idea? And that's just my idea.
Well, I mean, that's not really my area. I mean, I'm passionate about the subject, and I've done this research project. But in terms of what happens in terms of Ealing and the local authority and the curriculum going forward, then although I'd be, of course this is my area of interest, so I'd be interested in being involved in it. But I can't make any decisions about what happens going forward. That's what the SACRE make that decision under Jan's guidance. And the question about worldviews is, the word worldviews is really coming in. Well, it has been since, well, did it first come in 2021, Jan? Was it before that?
It's been creeping in really since probably the start of, I don't know, 2000 and onwards. But in terms of documents, it's relatively recent, since about 21. Yes. Not everybody likes it. Not everyone likes the word.
I have to say, when we went to the Farmington conference last year, I went in sort of thinking that worldviews was a fairly standard, acceptable way of looking at religious education, and I was really challenged by some of the speakers there, because some of them were saying, actually, we don't like worldviews. We want to think of it in a more puristic, religion by religion approach, rather than the nuance, which is actually every child brings their own experience. And the children come from multi-faith homes, never mind multi-faith schools. So that's where the word worldviews comes from, that we acknowledge that, and we accept every voice has value.
Thanks so much, Charlotte.
That will be then included in our agreed syllabus in the future.
No, sorry, Councillor Mahmood. So what it is Charlotte's saying is that she's done her research. And we will consider that once we as SACRE go forward to agree that, and we'll do that in a different way. When we agree that, we can use some of the research in order to help us and guide us when we go forward in that point. Can I just be mindful of time, because we still got to go with Joran? I've got two questions, one from Councillor Keenan and one from Councillor Jay, please. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really exciting, and then thank you, Jan, as well for your presentation. I've just got two questions. You said that teachers often think in terms of content and not thematically about the golden threads. Why do you think that is? And how can subject leads get this across to teachers, especially non-specialist or new teachers?
Well, I think the key thing is one of the key things is the leads being confident to lead training in their own schools, and to make sure that there's a really solid understanding. To be honest with you, I think for the last couple of years there's been a bit of a sense of, I think the curriculum's changing, so we won't do any new training on it. But now we're into this, like, we know what the curriculum is going to look like, and we're able to equip teachers with that. And also, it's just getting the time for teachers to be trained is quite difficult. We know what it's like in a school. The training time is quite limited, and RE has to fight to get its voice heard sometimes. And so that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Jay.
Thank you, Chair. I think I had two questions, actually. I think Tariq really touched on my first one in terms of worldview, so I'll just skip to my second question. It was, first of all, Jan, just to acknowledge the amount of work that you've done and that you've put into this, and your enthusiasm really comes out. So I think you've done an amazing job, and I can see the passion coming through, which is great. In terms of looking at the sort of people that have informed your work, did you look at any work from any non-white theologians to get a diverse perspective? Because when I look at them, I don't think I've seen that reflected, because there are some outstanding black theologians out there as well, and I haven't seen any of that work informed.
Well, thank you for challenging me on that. I absolutely accept that, and I think you're right to challenge me on it. What I looked about, I started with the curriculums. So I started with what is being used across the country, and then, to be honest with you, I worked with Jan on the contacts that we had. So I think also there was, I know that Joran has made some connections that maybe we can build on, but yeah, I think that's an absolutely valid challenge, so thank you.
Yeah, they should be fairly easy to find, so if you need any help on that, there's a whole bank of them out
Thank
there.
you, Councillor. Right, thank you. Can I just now, can we just move on to Joran Hakim's research, please? That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Charlotte, are you okay to stop
Yeah, let me stop
this?
sharing. There we go.
That's it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be conscious of the time. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. And you guys just let me know if you can see that.
Yes, we can see that.
Ah, perfect. Okay. Right. Excellent. So yes, in hearing Charlotte's presentation, it is very interesting to see how much we overlap and how all of the previous speakers relate into everything that I'll be speaking about this evening. And once again, I have this fantastic opportunity to undertake the Farmerton Scholarship, and yeah, thank you so much, Jan, for your enthusiasm. So my line of query is exploring how inclusive representation in the Ealing RE curriculum impacts pupils' identity and sense of belonging. So this presentation explores how inclusive representation in RE influences pupils' identity. My argument is that representation is not simply about visibility, it also affects whose knowledge is valued and whose experiences are recognized, and ultimately who feels they belong within educational space. So the key questions I will hope to delve into, and there's going to be a lot of reflectiveness within my presentation as well, that I would encourage you to do. So some of the key questions is: who feels seen in school? What happens when identities are ignored? And can RE shape belonging? And how does representation affect confidence and engagement? So who feels seen in school? Now, in discussions of identity and belonging, the question of who feels seen in school asks whose identities, cultures, backgrounds are actually recognized within the classroom. Students are more likely to feel seen when their religion is displayed and acknowledged positively. When the curriculum includes people from their backgrounds and their experiences as well. Teachers pronounce their names correctly and value their perspectives. Something as simple as that goes a long way in terms of the value that pupils feel within the classroom. They feel safe expressing their beliefs. I know that Charlotte mentioned about confidence, and once a pupil feels seen in school, that confidence is more natural, and voluntary inputs are seen more regularly. School policies and celebrations include diverse traditions and viewpoints as well. Many a time when I'm teaching RE, one thing we do within my school is we do a carousel with certain subjects. With my year group, we do a carousel of RE. So I have the opportunity to teach it's a 3-form class. So I have the opportunity to teach all 3 year 5 classes RE. So I'm able to get a good kind of brain in all of the perspectives and backgrounds from the year 5 standard. And it's very interesting to see their viewpoint and their perspectives. One thing that you're going to see quite a bit in this presentation is the concept of worldview as well, which I know Charlotte has mentioned. RE, as we all know, is that particular subject that shines bright for those students that don't feel like they have a voice, for those students that don't feel like they can shine as bright in your maths or your English. Because RE is more than just a subject, I feel, you know, it's your livelihood, it's your lifestyle, this is how people dress, this is how people speak, how people greet each other. For example, one thing that I'm trying to kind of instill and calibrate is how infused students are once they see their identity represented. So it's been a challenge to kind of measure that. For one example I can give you is a student in my class who has special needs. He comes from a Sikh background, and he jumps up full of excitement every time that he sees that we're learning about Sikhism. His behavior changes in an instant. He now has the patience of a saint, and he chimes in, and he really likes to help, and his handwriting goes from illegible to fantastic. So is really, that is what I'm trying to hone in terms of identity and the importance of it, and the transformation element that it has. So often students who belong to the majority culture or religion may feel naturally represented, because school systems, holidays, language, and examples can reflect their experiences more often. So people feel invisible or excluded if obviously their faith or worldview is rarely discussed. If stereotypes are repeated, which is easily done. And this is where we encourage teachers to have a reflective practice. And they experience discrimination or bullying, or their home lifestyle identity is treated as different or abnormal. So this is almost the opportunity within RE and in the classroom to kind of correct these wrongs here. Now in RE specifically, feeling seen can come from a wide range of religions and worldviews, allowing students to share personal experiences. I've sent out quite a few questionnaires to my teachers at my school, and one thing that comes back strong is the confidence when it comes to subject knowledge. And a lot of teachers feel that they they're not that confident, and when it comes to leading a classroom, they shy away from allowing a more dialogic classroom. Because they're scared of any questions that they might not have the answer to, etc. And this is something I will speak about later on in the presentation. But within that element, you're kind of cutting off your nose to despite your face, so to speak, when it comes to RE, because allowing students to share that personal experience is really that nectar that as Charlotte mentioned earlier, that those personal experiences kind of underpinning your substantive and your disciplinary. So we need to tuck into that personal experience. So exploring themes and identity, diversity, recognizing both religion and non-religion perspectives is very important. One thing I like to do with my planning in RE is to use an image, and it could be any image, but these images usually have one or two or maybe more perspectives to see from. And I allow the students to have a discussion with their partner, and then they stand up and we have a good discussion about, okay, this image shows this and why, and then someone else would build on that, or someone else would challenge and say, okay, but I agree with you, but I feel like this image says something else. And it really does remind myself about how many different hats and how RE really does cross other curriculums, philosophical debates, etc. One quote that I like to use is by Guru Nanak, and this kind of goes into worldviews and a sense of belonging and unity. And Guru Nanak mentioned that before you are a Sikh, before you are a Muslim, before you are a Christian, we are first human beings. And that just goes to show that all of us, whether you have a religious background or not, all of us have a worldview. So in just taking the moment, just to yourselves, throughout this presentation, I will remind you just to have a reflective moment. You don't have to answer this question right now, maybe towards the end if you have time, but I just want you to think of a moment when your identity or experiences were recognized or overlooked at school. Sometimes we're able to really think back and pinpoint different points in our schooling where we were heard and where we were recognized, and a feeling is always attached to that. So in reply to that reflective moment, one thing that I did for Pupil Voice was to get some feedback from the students and ask them that same question. and it was fascinating in the results that I had. Now, more specifically with RE, I had quotes such as, in RE lessons, learning about my religion made me feel proud and included because my experience is finally connected to what we were learning. When a teacher asked about different family traditions and actually listened, I felt respected and more confident speaking in class. And you have other examples from history and English there, and it shows that cross-curriculum link. Some more examples were, and this one I particularly like, is sometimes I felt invisible because everyone assumed we all celebrated the same holidays. It felt awkward having to explain my own traditions. Another one talks about representation. Another one talks about perspectives here. Being represented made me feel like I belonged in the classroom, not just physically, but emotionally too. And it's interesting to see how essential identity and representation is across all subjects, and especially in recent times as well. So what happens when identities are ignored? And one thing I did as part of my scholarship is I undertook a case study with one pupil in my class who we had quite a magical moment, really. And within our RE lesson, we usually do a flashback 4, which they use for recapping, etc. And then one of those questions spoke about Jainism. And one of my pupils in my class asked, I've never heard of Jainism before. What is it? And a hand went up in my classroom, and a pupil spoke, and she spoke quite eloquently about Jainism. And she said that she's a practicing Jain, and she felt very passionate about that and very proud of that. And it's almost like you could hear a pin drop within the classroom, and everyone was fascinated by it. And I think within that moment where she spoke, you could almost feel and see the little connections that the pupils were making in terms of the similarities that they had with her. She mentioned that there's a lot of interlinks with Hinduism. So it was fascinating to really see, and she's been great in feedback into me. So hopefully this works, but I was able to record some questions to ask.
Hi, Joanna, are you still there?
Yes, can you hear that?
Yeah, you just cut out for me for a second.
Oh, can you hear the recording?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Ah, perfect. Can you hear the recording?
I can't hear recording. No.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. That's a shame. So I was trying to play a recording there, but it doesn't seem like it's working. So she was basically expressing her feelings in terms of her background in Jainism and everything that kind of came with it. And she mentioned that how she felt not seeing it represented as much, and she felt slightly marginalized in a way. So on this next slide, it goes into that in further detail. It says, when identities are ignored, the issue is not only personal, but structural. It can reinforce power imbalances by suggesting that some identities are normal and worthy of recognition, while others are less important or invisible. And this shapes who feels valued within the school community. Ignoring identities can lead to marginalization, which, as we know, is students whose cultures, religions, and languages or experiences are absent. A symbolization of pressure, which individuals may feel expected to hide parts of themselves in order to feel dominant norms. And it'll be fascinating to understand how many of our pupils feel like that within the classroom. Unequal participation. So students who do not feel recognized are often less confident contributing in discussions. And again, that goes back to the nectar of oracy within our RE lessons that we should be encouraging. And then you have bias becoming normalized. And this is when difference is not acknowledged. Difference is not acknowledged critically. And stereotypes and exclusions can go unchallenged and entail, as within our RE lesson, this represents the community. If these identities and ignorances go unchallenged, then this will lead to a weakened community, and schools risk becoming spaces where belonging is conditional rather than shared. So over here is a RE perspective. Ignoring identity also allows limits students' understanding of diversities when only certain voices are heard. Now, this is another recording which I won't play because I don't think you'll be able to hear it, but it's a discussion within the class, and it was fascinating because I had a student step up and he really was very eloquent in discussing the importance of RE. One thing I do within my RE lessons is I dedicate the first couple of slides to speak about what is RE. And some students say RE is religious education. I say, okay, but what else is it? What more is it? Like Charlotte mentioned, what is the meaning of it? What's the why behind it? What's the deeper meaning? And it was fascinating to hear this young boy speak. And he said, you know, it's much more than just looking at people's religion, but it's also looking at, and he used the word identity, and learning from one another. And it was fascinating how he articulated that. And that leads to my next point here, where it says within religion, particularly in the modern religion and worldviews approach, everything is understood to have a worldview. And this is where we go into the notion of a worldview now. A worldview is the way a person understands life. The meaning, the morality, the identity, how they interact with the world around them. It shapes how people think, the decisions they make, and how they interpret that experience. A worldview does not have to be religious. For some people, it may be shaped by religion, but for others, it may be influenced by non-religious perspectives and personal experiences as well as philosophical beliefs. So even people who say they have no religion still usually hold a belief and values that guide their understanding of life. So just, and I know I'm conscious of the time here, I'm not sure how much time I have, but another reflection point is, does everyone have a worldview? Again, this is underpinning what Charlotte touched on earlier. And this idea of a worldview can also be debated, and I've heard of some pushback in terms of worldview. And some people argue that calling everything a worldview can dilute and also make the concept too broad or vague. And then you have another side which believe that is useful because it helps people recognize that everyone interprets the world through particular perspectives and experiences. So it's very interesting to see where people fall in the notion of worldviews. Now, from my perspective, a worldview is the way a person understands and interprets the world. These are the questions that underpin, and this almost interlinks with your golden threads. And this is the foundation. What is the purpose of life? What is right or wrong? You're looking at morality here. What should people live? How should people live? What happens after death? The concept of charity. And is it just giving money? Or can charity be respect and treating your parents with respect? Could charity be a smile? And it's just looking a bit deeper. Now, under this definition, religious people have a worldview shaped by their faith, and non-religion people have a worldview based on their personal philosophies. Now, my perspective is that a worldview is an overarching framework of meaning which individuals interpret reality. Under this definition, I believe that everyone is considered to have a worldview. I believe that because all people make assumptions about reality, knowledge, morality, and purpose, that everyone possesses a worldview, whether it's religious or non-religious, explicit or implicit. So this leads me to the role of a teacher now, and my impact in my school. And I've led quite a few insets. Number one, just basing on subject knowledge and confidence, and another on the role of a teacher. And the word epistemic throughout my research has come up time and time again, and that is the concept that teachers are not so much as a dictator or a leader in terms of where the conversation should go, but more as a conductor. Epistemic gatekeeper means teachers influence what knowledge is presented, whose voices are included, and how topics are framed. They help shape students' understanding of the world. So the teacher shapes how religions are presented, and tackling my earlier points there also helps towards breaking down those stereotypes that may be built sometimes without intention. My last couple of points is that a curriculum is only as inclusive as its delivery. So that kind of goes to the point of teachers understand the meaning, the big ideas, and just the essential importance of the personal knowledge and not shying away from that. I've had many discussions with different scholars and educational professionals. One conversation I had was with Christian McGuinness, who is educational consultant, and he's also an advisor, and he was talking about the decolonization of RE and how, again, looking at those stereotypes, how sometimes we are presenting an image that is very blanketed, that we don't challenge and we don't reflect on. Once we have the understanding that everyone has a worldview, then it leads back to a quote such as this, which is, "There is no such thing as a view from nowhere." So just with those points that I mentioned for you to reflect, this is also a point that we should understand as well, that there is no such thing as a worldview. There's no such thing as a view from nowhere. I think this really ties into kind of bringing identity and also belonging within the class. My next steps from here would be exactly what was discussed just earlier in terms of how to bring teachers on board onto this understanding, so that this is then kind of seen in the classrooms, because it's represented in the pupil voices that I undertake. And you can see the passion within the classroom when that identity within a lesson is established, and it really is night and day in terms of the attainment that you see and the engagement as well. Yeah, sorry, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Joran and Charlotte. Can I both thank you so much? They were so interesting to hear such wonderful research that you've done, and very, very important points that I think SACRE will have to look at the syllabus, and maybe we could get the research, whatever we found from there, and use those recommendations going forward. Jan, you had a question, please.
It was really just to say how very proud I am of our two Farmington scholars. It's no mean feat to get a place at Oxford. To do the scholarship programme, and their work, including and research, but also it will impact on our schools and our borough. And I think we are very fortunate to have them both come to speak with us at SACRE. So thank you both very, very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I was going to say, going forward, perhaps we could even maybe share the research amongst, I don't know, Jan, if we could share the research amongst head teachers and schools, something that could stimulate a borough-wide dialogue. And we have such important information from this research. Could we do that going forward?
Yes. Sorry, Chair. Yes, we do have some finance that sits in SACRE that's still part of the agreed syllabus conference, and it hasn't been decided on the allocation. So if that, as a chair, you felt was a good use of that finance for the training linked into the syllabus, then that may be something, obviously you would need to speak with Duran and Charlotte, but that could be something that as a SACRE that we decided to do.
Okay. Is there any questions or any comments anyone would make would like to make before we close the meeting? Jan, is that okay? Anyone else? Jan, would you like to say anything else? Okay, right. The time now is 9 minutes past 9. The next meeting will be the 29th of September 2026. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for everyone's contributions tonight. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next meeting. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.